ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣಪತಿ ಶಾರದಾ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಚರಿತಂ ರಘುನಾಥಸ್ಯ ಶತಕೋಟಿ ಪ್ರವಿಸ್ತರಂ ಏಕೈಕಮಕ್ಷರಂ ಪುಂಸಾಂ ಮಹಾಪಾತಕನಾಶನಂ. Welcome to all for this session on Sri Rama Charita Manasa, and in this part, Saint Tulasidasa presents the glory of the story, that is Ramacharita Manasa. Invoking Uma, goddess Parvati, and Lord Shiva, who has a bull emblazoned on his standard, I now proceed to give a full account as to what this Ramacharita Manasa is like, how it came to be, and what led to its popularity in the world. By the grace of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, a best idea inspired the mind of Tulasidasa, which made him the author of Ramacharitamanasa. The author has polished his composition to the best of his intellect, yet listened to it with a sympathetic mind, O noble souls, and correct it. A refined Sattvika intellect is the catchment area, part is the fathomless cavity, the Vedas and Puranas constitute the ocean, while holy men represent the clouds which rain down pure, sweet, agreeable, and blessed water in the form of Sri Rama's excellent glory. Pastimes of a personal God, such as that such holy men narrate in extenso, or the transparency of this water which cleanses all impurity, while loving devotion which defies all description represents its sweetness and coolness. This water is beneficial for the paddy crop in the form of virtuous deeds. It is life itself to the devotees of Sri Rama. The same holy water, when it dropped on the soil of the intellect, flowed in a volume through the beautiful channel of the ears, and collecting in the lovely spot called the heart, came to be stationary. Having remained there for a long time, it becomes clear, agreeable, cool, and refreshing. The four most beautiful and excellent dialogues of those between Pakabhushundi and Garuda, Shiva and Parvati, Yagnavalkya and Bharadwaja, and between Tulsi Dasa and other saints that have been cleverly woven into this narrative are the four lovely ghats of this holy and charming lake. Ghats are basically the steps leading to the lake. The seven books are the seven beautiful flights of steps which the soul delights to look upon with eyes of wisdom. The qualified and unbounded greatness of Sri Rama, which will be presently discussed, represents the unfathomable depth of this holy water. The glory of Sri Rama and Sita constitutes the nectarian water. The similes represents the soul ravishing sport of its wavelets. The beautiful capacious represents the thick growth of lotus plants. The various poetic devices constitutes the lovely shells that yield beautiful pearls. The other meters, that is chandas, sorathas, and the dohas, are the cluster of charming, many colored lotuses. The incomparable sense, the beautiful ideas, and the elegant expression represents the pollen, honey, and fragrance of those flowers, respectively. The virtuous acts mentioned therein are the charming swarms of bees, the references to spiritual enlightenment, dispassion, and reason represent the swan. The implication and involutions of and the Various excellences and styles of poetry are the lovely fishes of every kind. The four ends of human existence, namely worldly riches, that is artha, religious merit, dharma, enjoyment, kama, and liberation, moksha, the reason, exposition of gnana, the knowledge of God in his absolute formless aspect, and Vijnana, the knowledge of the qualified divinity both with and without form, the nine sentiments of poetry and the references to japa, the muttering of mystic formulae, austerity, yoga, which is the contemplative union with God, and detachment from the world. All these represent the charming aquatic creatures of this lake Charitha Manasa. Eulogies on virtuous men, pious souls, and the name of God. These correspond to water birds of various kinds. Assemblage of saints referred to herein are the mango groves hemming the lake on all sides, and piety has been likened to the vernal season. The exposition of the various types of devotion and the reference to forbearance, compassion, and sense control represent the canopies of creepers. Even so, mind control, the five yamas of forms of self restraint. Yama are the first among the Shadanga yogas, the six steps of yoga. The first step is the Yama, in that, namely, non violence, truthfulness, non thieving, continence, and non acquisition of property. And the five niyamas, the second step of the yoga, are the religious vows, namely those of external and internal purity, contentment, austerity, study of sacred books, or repetition of the divine name, and self surrender to God, are the blossoms of these creepers. Spiritual enlightenment is their fruit, and loving devotion to the feet of Sri Hari constitutes the sap of this fruit of spiritual enlightenment. So declare the Vedas. The various others episodes forming part of this narrative are the birds of different colors, such as the parrot and the cuckoo. The thrill of joy that one experiences while listening to this narrative represents the flower gardens, orchards, and groves, and the delight one feels is the sporting of birds, while a noble mind is a gardener who waters the garden, etc., with the moisture of love through the charming jars of eyes. Those who carefully recite this poem, they alone are the vigilant guardians of this lake, and those men and women who reverently hear it every day are the great gods exercising jurisdiction over this Manasa Sarovara lake. Sensual wretches are the accursed hero herons and crows who never approach the lake. For here there are no varied talks of pleasures of sense corresponding to snails, frogs, and moths. That is why poor crows and herons in the form of lustful men lack the heart to visit this place of Ramacharita Manasa lake. For there is much difficulty in getting to this place, and it is not possible to reach it without the grace of Sri Rama. Bad company, which is so obdurate, constitutes a terribly rough road, and the words of such companions are so many tigers, lions, and serpents. The various occupations and entanglements of domestic life are huge mountains which are so difficult to approach. Infatuation, arrogance, and pride are so many inaccessible woods, and sophisms of various kinds are frightful streams. The Manasa is most inaccessible to those who lack provisions for the journey in the shape of pity, who do not enjoy the company of saints, and who have no love for the Lord of Raghus, that is Sri Rama. Even if anyone makes his way to it, undergoing so much hardship, he is forthwith attacked by ague in the shape of drowsiness, benumbing cold in the shape of stupor overtakes his heart, so that the unhappy soul is deprived of a dip even after reaching there. Finding himself unable to take a plunge into the lake or to drink from it, he returns with a feeling of pride. And if someone comes to inquire about the lake, he tries to satisfy him by vilifying it. All these obstacles do not, however, deter him whom Sri Rama regards with overwhelming kindness. He alone reverently bathes in the lake and thus escapes the threefold agony of the fiercest kind, that is, Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Bhautika problems. Those men who cherish ideal devotion to the feet of Sri Rama never quit this lake. Let him who would bathe in this lake, brother, diligently practice satsanga, association with saints, having seen the said Manasa lake with the mind's eye and taken a dip into it, the poet's intellect got purged of all its dross. The heart was flooded with joy and alacrity, and a torrent of love and rapture welled from it. Hence flowed a stream of beautiful poetry carrying the water of Sri Rama's fair renown. Sarayu is the name of this river, which is the very fountain of pure bliss. The secular viewpoint and the viewpoint of the Vedas, these represent its two charming banks. This holy stream, issuing as it does from the beautiful Manasa lake, uproots in its course all the impurities of the Kali age, whether in the form of tiny blades of grass or of mighty trees. Incidentally, even the river Sarayu is born near Mount Kailash, where there is a Manasa Sarovara, Manasa lake, and from the southern tip of it, the river Sarayu is born and it flows through Nepal and India. And incidentally, here Ramacharitha Manasa is also the story of Rama, which flows like a river from that Manasa lake. The three types of audience are the towns, villages, and cities on both the banks, and the congregation of saints is the incomparable Ayodhya, which is the fountain of all auspicious beings. The beautiful Sarayu, in the form of Sri Rama's fair renown, joined the heavenly stream Ganga of devotion to Rama. The latter was joined again by the charming stream of the mighty Sona in the form of a martial glory of Rama with his younger brother Lakshmana. Intervening the two streams of Sarayu and Sona shines the celestial stream of devotion blended with noble dispassion and knowledge. This triple stream, which scares away the threefold agony referred to above, headed towards the ocean of Sri Rama's divine personality. With its source in the Manasa lake and united with the celestial river Ganga, the Sarayu of Sri Rama's fame will purify the mind of the pious souls who listen to it, while the strange episodes interspersed here and there are the groves and gardens, as it were, adjoining the river banks. The bridegroom's party in the wedding of goddess Uma, that is Parvati, and the great Lord Shiva, or the numberless aquatic creatures of various kinds, the rejoicing and felicitations that attended the advent of Sri Rama, the chief of Raghus, represent the charm of eddies and waves. The childlike sports of the four divine brothers or the numerous lotus flowers of varied colors, while the stock of merits of King Dasharatha and his consorts and court represents the bees and water birds. The fascinating story of Sita's choice marriage is the delightful charm surrounding the river, the numerous pertinent questions or the boats on the river, while the judicious replies of the same or the skilled boatmen. The conversation that follows the narration of the story is the crowd of travelers moving along the river banks. The wrath of Parashurama, the lord of Brigus, represent the furious current of this river, while Sri Rama's soft words are the strongly built gods of the banks. The festivities connected with the wedding of Sri Rama and his brothers represent the graceful swell in the river, which is source of delight to all. Those who rejoice and experience a thrill of joy in narrating or hearing the story are the lucky souls who take an exhilarating dip in the river. The auspicious preparations that were gone through in connection with the installation of Sri Rama as the Yuvaraja, Prince Regent, represent, as it were, the crowds of bathers assembled at the river bank on the sacred occasion. Kaikeyi's evil counsel represents the moss in the bank, which brought a serious calamity in its wake. The story of Bharata, which wards off all calamities, is a congregational muttering of sacred formulae carried on at the river bank, while the references to the corruptions of Kali age and the evil propensities of wicked souls represents the scum on the water as well as the herons and crows living by the riverside. The river of Sri Rama's glory is delightful during all the 6 seasons. It is exceedingly charming and holy at all times. The wedding of goddess Parvati, the daughter of Himavan, and Lord Shiva represents Hemanta season or the cold season, while the festival connected with the Lord's advent represents the delightful Shishira or chilly season. The story of the preparations for Sri Rama's wedding constitutes the Varnal, that is the Vasanta Ritu, the king of all seasons, which abounds in joy and felicity, while Sri Rama's departure for the forest constitutes the oppressive hot season Grishma Ritu, and the tale of his wanderings represents the blazing sun and hot winds. The terrible conflict with the demons represents the rainy season Varsha Rutu, which constituted a veritable blessings to the paddy crop in the form of gods, while while the prosperity attending Sri Rama's reign, his politeness and glory represents the cloudless, delightful, and charming autumn season. The recital of the virtues of Sita, the crest jewel of faithful wives, constitutes the excellence of the transparent and incomparable water, and Bharata's amiability represents its coolness, which is uniform at all times and beyond description. The way the four brothers look at one another, talk with one another, meet and love one another, their myth and their ideal brotherliness, these constitutes the sweetness and fragrance of the water. My intense longing, supplication, and humility represents the not inconsiderable lightness of this pure and holy water. This marvelous water heals by the mere hearing, quenches the thirst and desire, and washes the dirt of the mind. This water nourishes true love of Sri Rama and drives away all the sins of the Kali age, as well as the feeling of self depreciation resulting therefrom. It relieves the fatigue of transmigration, gratifies gratification itself, and puts an end to sin. So, end to sin, sorrow, indigence, and error. It wipes out lust, anger, pride, and infatuation, and enhances pure wisdom and dispassion. By reverently bathing in it and drinking from it, all traces of sin and remorse are obliterated from the heart. Those who have not washed their heart with this water are wretches that have been duped by the age of Kali. These creatures, wandering in pursuit of sensuous pleasures, will come to grief even as the thirsty deer runs after a mirage, mistaking it for real water and returns disappointed. Having enumerated the virtues of this excellent water to the best of his intellectual capacity and bathed his mind in it, and remembering Goddess Bhavani, Parvati, and Lord Shankara, the poet Tulasidasa narrates this beautiful story, installing in my heart the lotus feet of Lord of Raghus, and thus securing his grace. I now proceed to relate the charming story of the meeting of the two great sages, Yagnavalkya and Bharadwaja. Thus, with this, after explaining the greatness of the story Ramacharita Manasa and depicting how it is the story of Rama flowing from the Manasa lake known as Ramacharita Manasa, so Saint Tulasidasa here onwards will present the story of Rama as told by Yagnavalkya to Bharatwaja. Namaste Sharade Devi Kashmira Puravasini Swamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidya Danancha Dehime. Goodbye.
श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपाल भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणं श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपाल भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणं श्रीराम 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 श्रीराम